This episode, right here, Deku versus Muscular, Delaware, Detroit, Smash! So let's go ahead and get this out of the way. This episode of My Hero Academia was singularly perfect from beginning to end. So well paced, so many epic battles, and that final scene of this episode where Deku just absolutely destroys Muscular with 1,000,000% of his power is just a thing of beauty. Maybe one of my favorite anime punches of all time. You guys know me, I'm into action, I love action-based anime series, and even with special powers, my favorite thing has always been a really solid punch. And this one right here just lived up to all of the hype. I didn't expect it, I wasn't prepared for it, I didn't know that this episode was going to be this freaking epic, but it was. So let's go ahead and just break it down. This episode is divided into two parts. The second half of the episode is dedicated to Deku battling against Muscular. This first half of the episode is all the other villains introducing themselves and battling against the Wild Pussycats, Aizawa, and maybe even some of the random students. And basically it's a great way to get acquainted to these guys. It all starts when we get to see that the Losers Club that Aizawa's looking after are going to be stuck in the school, and when he leaves to go help everyone, he's met by Dabi, who absolutely incinerates the hell out of him with his blue fire, in a scene that's really shocking, but let's face it, there's no way they're gonna take out a racer head this way, although it really looked awesome, just that big explosion of blue fire, just so stylistic and cool. We then finally get to see what's up with that lizard dude who's dressed up like Stain, who also looks a lot like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. I'm not sure what his quirk actually is, but he has a very large weapon, which is basically just a ton of knives tied together and turned into a even bigger sword. Really, Spinner the Lizard Man is really creepy and fun, and I can't wait to see if there's a little bit more to him, to the fact that he's half man, half lizard, and how he utilizes that in battle. He actually goes up against Mandalay in this episode, and she uses her telepathy to a really great degree, to the point where she tries to distract her opponents by getting into their head. She tries to basically hit on Spinner in this episode, which causes him to lose his guard, but he still manages to recover. There's also the weird dude in the suit who also seems to have some sort of magnetic abilities, who goes by the name of Magne, who's killed a couple of people, committed all sorts of crimes, and that's because Tiger announces him out loud as he tries to beat the crap out of him. Tiger in this episode was so freaking cool, man, I have to admit. Even though he's got a tutu, there's just something about him that's super intimidating. It's gotta be the giant Arnold Schwarzenegger physique, and the fact that he has massive claws, and he just comes at you literally like a tiger. It's pretty awesome, and I can't wait to see more of his battle with Magne. It also looks like Katsuki and Shoto are actually going to be fighting against that one villain who looks like something out of Hellraiser. He's apparently eating someone's arm, which might be one of the students, which is pretty freaking alarming, and even Katsuki's reaction to this is exactly what you would expect. He's still fired up, but at the same time kind of apprehensive about going after this guy who looks like a really creepy Halloween decoration. But let's just go ahead and get to the second half of this episode. Deku versus Muscular. This was so freaking perfect. I loved the build-up to it most of all, with the introduction of Muscular. We actually get to learn that he was the man in the mask and the massive cloak, and that he's actually the one who killed Kota's parents. That's right, a fact that he doesn't even really remember and is not really that much of a big deal to him, and meeting Kota was simply a coincidence. Basically, Muscular's kind of a psychopath. He just likes killing people because it's fun. And his distinctive quirk is that he is able to power up his muscles. So you have all of these muscle strands which explode all over his body. He can pump them up a la Bane from Batman. And really, he's just insane and fun to watch. And you know what? His quirk makes him the perfect opponent for Deku at this point. It's power versus power. And when Deku finally does arrive, this is when the battle begins proper. And in the first half, Deku, for the most part, just can't keep up with Muscular. He continuously regenerates his muscles, no matter what, and he also manages to match him even in strength as well. Not to mention, he's kind of afraid of using his power too much yet again, but he realizes there comes a point when he is going to have to start using it. and there is a part in the episode where Muscular's just destroying the entire mountainside in a scene of absolute glory. Izuku decides, yep, there's no way he can continue to do this. He's going to have to fight back, and he ends up using 100% of his power and just absolutely wrecking his arm. And yet, it still doesn't defeat Muscular. He actually has the unique ability to not only power him up himself, but use his muscle as sort of like a giant shield. And he basically turns into like a giant ball of muscle that nothing can completely penetrate. And that's when he goes on the offensive and just continues to wail on Deku, to the point where he uses this one massive attack where his entire body basically becomes just like a giant boulder of muscle, which is continuously crushing Deku into the ground. And then it happens. The big moment. The moment of the episode that lived up to the hype of all the other big action scenes from the series and might even have surpassed them, at least for me personally. It all begins when Kota actually reveals his quirk when he attacks Muscular with his water abilities. Just like his parents, he can shoot them out, and that's basically what he can do. He's a water man. And then that's when Deku realizes that he is going to continue to fight forward no matter what, sacrificing his body in the process, and he achieves using 1,000,000%, just think about that for a second, of his power, which results in the Delaware Detroit Smash, where just his very touch will destroy Muscular's muscle fibers. And that's when the right hook comes, just boom! Point blank. You get to see all of his muscle fibers ripping apart as the camera speeds over his body, followed swiftly by Deku's fist slamming right into Muscular's face, sending him flying like a friggin' bullet slamming into the mountainside, while Izuku continues to scream out loud after this attack. It was exhausting, it was emotional, and it was badass. So what's the rundown on this episode of My Hero Academia? I loved this episode. For me, this was absolutely perfect from beginning to end. Really, I can't praise it enough. But the individual elements of this episode worked so well as well. Like, even though the Deku fight with Muscular was incredible, the first half of the episode was a fantastic introduction to all of these cool villains. They immediately upped the ante by showing Eraserhead get erased by Dobby's blue fire. And yes, pun intended. I actually didn't intend for that initially, but it happens. These things are organic. The other villains leave a big impact as well. I mean, Spinner has just got such a unique design. He looks like something that was ripped out of a 90s comic book. And that's kind of what I think they're going for with his character. The fact that he's taken on the ideologies of Stain shows that even though that character barely existed in the series at all, he's left a massive impact and sent this wave of craziness through the villain community in the series. But ultimately, this episode is all about Deku versus Muscular, and man, it was just really great. Muscular himself has a few interesting things I want to talk about. First off, he's got this like kind of Mr. Potato Head thing going on, where he can apparently like switch out his eyes because his eye got injured by Kota's parent, and he's got these like weird fake eyes that he can swap out depending on the situation. I only say this because there's a scene where he reaches into his pocket and you see a bunch of other fake eyes, so I guess it just depends on the actual situation or how he's feeling or where he's going to be dining that evening. But still, it's a pretty funny thing about his character. That and the fact that not only is he here just to cause a lot of trouble, but apparently he's also looking for Katsuki Bakugo. I'm not sure why this is, and I have a couple of theories as to what could be going on here. One, they realize that Katsuki's practically a villain and they want to try and recruit them for their ranks. I think that honestly makes sense. Second, this guy is not too dissimilar from Katsuki Bakugo. In fact, they have the same hair color and a lot of the same sensibilities about how incredibly crazy they are. For all we know, they could possibly be related. Probably a lot of evidence against this, but still it's something to think about. But I'm really interested to see what this entire deal is going to be. Maybe Muscular had an encounter with Katsuki's parents or a family member at some point. Inquiring minds want to know, and now that we've seen him literally get Delaware Detroit smashed against a wall, it's going to be hard to actually get some answers as to really what's going on with him. Otherwise, though, Deku versus Muscular, just wow. It was done so well. The first half was really great, too. And it surprised me because I thought it looked really good, but at the same time I'm like, this could probably look better. It's probably going to intensify. And as soon as I started thinking that, it happened. The animation quality just exploded out of this episode. The final scenes where Muscular is covering his entire body and basically turning into a giant tank of muscle meat, just slamming right into Deku, like, it was just so well done in the detail and the speed lines, and everything just had so much oomph, weight behind it. It made every single attack just feel so good. And that final punch, guys, Delaware Detroit Smash, like, wow, that was awesome. Easily, I think, the best punch of the entire series. And like I said, one of my favorite anime punches of all time. It was just done so well and felt so great. And the desperation of Deku during that moment was just great for him to be able to try and sacrifice his body. He knows in that moment, if he was ever going to get through to Kota, this was going to be it. He's right in front of him. There's a villain here, the one that killed his parents. He has got to defeat this guy in order to bring this kid back to his senses. It was such a make-or-break moment for Deku, and as always, he manages to surpass it, to cross that line, to climb the mountain, to kick so much gnarly ass. Wow. This episode reaffirmed yet again my love with this series, and how, episode by episode, it continues to blow my mind. It seemed so superficial at first, like this is just going to be another long-running weekly anime, Dragon Ball, One Piece, Naruto, blah blah blah. But man, there's something a lot more to this show, and every week I'm discovering the magic of it, and I just want to see more just like this. And the fact that we're so early in on this season, and we're already getting something like this, and there's still all those other villains, man, guys, the hype is so real right now. So I loved this episode. I've just been talking and grooving about it for the last couple minutes, so let's get to the brass tacks. It's a 5 out of 5. It's a perfect episode. It was action-packed. There were so many great chaotic things going on. They all looked good. They're all interesting. There's little plot details like the fact that friggin' Muscular's looking for Katsuki. I mean, it just works. Everything in this episode works, and you should be checking it out. And I want to hear your thoughts about this episode. If you watched it, tell me in the comment section below if you liked it, if you didn't like it. Tell me what you thought about the battle with Deku and Muscular, the new villains that appeared here. What's his deal with Katsuki? Let's start a discussion in the comment section and talk about this awesome episode of My Hero Academia. So thank you guys so much for watching this review. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm doing tons of other anime reviews and discussions, so please make sure to subscribe so you can see those as they are released. Thank you guys again for watching this video. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, Pras Ultra!